I want to talk about manipulation and propaganda, if we can. So I have this this tweet from me. You are being played. They are manipulating your emotions to get you to support war. In the first clip, you can see emotional moment. German interpreter cries during Zelensky's speech. Then you have this tweet. CNN interpreter cries as he translates Zelensky's speech that mentioned children killed by Russian strikes. And then you have another story. Translator breaks down during Volodymyr Zelensky's speech to European Parliament. I do believe it's not, I believe it's 2 interpreters, but I posted these 3 stories because they're the ones I just happen to have. My intent to what to explain here is not so much that there are 2 different circumstances I found where translators began crying. That is wholly inappropriate, in my opinion, and I believe it's propaganda and manipulation. Not necessarily intentional or whatever, but I think they allow these things to happen. They know these things are going to happen because what they want is when the president of Ukraine is giving a speech talking about the devastation and speaking literally about what's happening. Children are dying. We need to push back on this. To drive the point home in terms of manipulating emotions, you have someone cry while saying it, which the president of Ukraine certainly was not doing. This is a manipulation of your emotions. To hear someone, he's killing children, and so you go, oh no, they're crying. They want you to support ground war in Ukraine.
And why? Why?
I mean, well,
this comes back to what I'm saying, right? Well, why would you want to do that?
Military-industrial complex, profits.
No, but you know it's going to spark.
I guess who's the they in this
major world
equation?
War.
I think for me, it's always a simple solution of who benefits, and it's weapons manufacturers stock skyrocketed the moment war was declared, and you know it.
And they actually did that article 10. It was like digital security firms like Palantir and 9 other ones.
There's an article that said, what was it? Cutting Russia off from the SWIFT payment system could result in major cyber attacks. Here are some stocks that will greatly improve or will go up in value. And it's like basically saying invest in these companies.
So Lydia, what I've just done is I've just emailed you the video that I'm talking of the Azov fighters doing that.
Sure.
And I couldn't send you the tweet because Twitter has decided that this tweet
very dangerous.
Violates their rules.
Is it on your Twitter?
No, it's still on Twitter, but you can't tweet it out. You can't retweet it or send it to somebody.
Yeah,
but because I quote tweeted it, I've sent you my quote tweet.
Okay.
Well, who posted it?
The national.
You quote tweeted it.
So the National Guard of Ukraine posted the video.
Oh, this is the pig's blood one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so because I quote tweeted, I can send you my quote tweet, which allows you. But I couldn't send the actual tweet.
When did you post it?
On the 27th of Feb.
Maybe you can help because I'm not Muslim.
Let me do this. What did you say in the quote tweet?
Do you want me to email it to you?
No, just tell me what it was so I can pull it up.
I've said, why does the National Guard of Ukraine think it acceptable to glorify the Nazi Azov Brigade while they grease bullets with lard to target Kadyrov's Chechen forces?
Got it.
Here we are.
Easiest way to pull it up.
I'm sorry your country was attacked, but armed Nazi units are not an answer, especially when pulling off this.
I gotta say, I don't know if YouTube would consider it a violation of the rules if we show that video.
But Twitter did.
But
Twitter considers a violation of the rules.
But if you clicked view, you can see. If you hit view, the video will come up because it's not been banned.
My concern is that YouTube will delete the live stream.
We should definitely show this on the after show regardless.
We'll show it on the... In fact, we'll have a conversation about religion and the implications.
Yeah.
But this is one of the problems of propaganda manipulation and censorship, and it's why they need censorship. I actually believe if we were to show that video, YouTube would probably just take the stream down, give us a strike, block us from streaming, because it's bad for the establishment narrative.
And yet it's newsworthy to know that that's what the formal Ukrainian army has tweeted out with our funding and backing.
Hunter Biden's laptop was particularly newsworthy, and they shut that down.
This is the first moment I've seen him turn into a religious war of any type. Like they're going after their faith.
Right, and then why am I raising... That's the point. Why I'm raising this is because that New York Times article you pulled up, Tim, right? So those fighters, now let's call them foreign fighters, a bit like we called foreign jihadi fighters foreign fighters, right? They go to join that battalion. They've gone and they know they're targeting Chechen Muslims. They get radicalized. They're Nazis. They go back to France. 10% of France is Muslim. Yeah. And France has its own Muslim radicalization problem. And France, as we know, and if you read any of Welbeck, for example, his book Submission, we know what could potentially happen with that tension. And I worry that you end up with this perfect storm. And you end up with this civil conflict in Europe. And of course, if you need to build back better, you need your Great Reset.
You can't build back unless there's
a great reset. Yeah. Both of those phrases happen to come from somewhere.
In the United States, there's a escalating concern of a civil conflict here as well.
Yeah.
And I certainly feel like it's Like it's coming.
I saw a story of Google Pay and Apple Pay banned Russia. You can't use it in Russia to get on the subway anymore. So the lines are really long. So I was thinking the cost is not only fiscal, but it's time. If you can't get to where you're going in time, then you can't get it done in time, which means it doesn't get done right, which is another kind of cost that you got to.
That's right. But let's push this a bit, right? So why would you have a policy of divide and conquer in this way? Yeah. Why do you want me hating you guys? Right? Muslim hating non-Muslims. If your system is under threat, as we know from the British Empire, the best way to make sure that all of us are not looking up is to make sure we're looking left and right.
Mm-hmm. That's critical race theory.
Correct.
And that's what I believe. If you look at the situation with the money supply, if you look at like what's going on with this desire to have this great reset, the only thing that makes sense is to encourage everybody to turn on each other. And we witness that happening. We witness that happening in our media narratives. You know, there's a reason why the word racism is now being thrown around everywhere not by you or me, but by big corporations who, you know, you think about it, why have they suddenly become so interested in stoking these racial fires? What's going on? And these are some of the biggest profit-making corporations on the planet.
Why is it that the people who were supporting the riots over Black Lives Matter, who then became the vaccine mandate supporters, are now the flag? They keep changing the emojis in their Twitter accounts.
And if you
it's
follow,
almost like they're not independently thinking individuals.
Prioritizing profit over all else, maybe?
But if you follow the causes they've supported, one thing you can see from those causes is they all do end up dividing everybody from each other to a point where people are fighting each other.
Yeah.
Rage bait.
Why?
Hate clicks. Emotions put people in a vulnerable place, and then you can get them to do what you want them to do when they're emotionally erratic. A little easier. Push this button now. You better. And
you know, I wonder if some people are just not able to be independent thinkers. That's what I should say. Some people are leaders. Some people are followers. There's nothing wrong with being a follower. Some people just want to, you know, get by and live an honest life and have someone else be more dedicated to the hard decisions. I can understand that. But if that's the case, that means there are a lot of people who are going to say something as absurd as, you know, you don't even got to do anything. You just look it up on the CDC's website and just do whatever they tell you, which in my opinion is an absurd statement. I mean, you have to take some responsibility for your own life.
Is when you get a follower in a leadership position, like when someone says that dumb follower mine, but they have 100,000 people listening to them, like their follower leads the followers, then you get
It's a good example of you know, like these podcasters who have said, you don't even got to think about it, just do what the government tells you, or who have their followers who have been put in, you know, high up positions where all they're doing is telling their followers to follow other people, to do as they're told, basically, because they themselves are followers.
I think there's the average person who's working 9 to 5, who's struggling Monday to Friday to put bread on the table for them and their family. I can excuse them, right? They don't have the time, luxury, or privilege to think through some of these topics. What I am particularly animated about is those people that do have the time, luxury, and privilege to think through this stuff and still choose to do, choose a course of action that harms people severely because they want to make money and profit.
I know.
I would say there's also something else on top of that. I agree with you. But I would argue that in most situations, it's just the fact that they don't want to think too hard about things because then they face social ostracism. So if you're an academic and you're out of line with the other academics and question their orthodoxy, all of a sudden, you're less likely to get a promotion, you're not getting invited out, and you're just not liked by your friends, which is really painful for us as human beings. So I think oftentimes it isn't necessarily just a profit motive, it's about social status.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. It's funny that the people who throw on the word grifter tend to be the grifters.
Mm-hmm. It's projection, isn't it?
Because the thief thinks everyone steals. Yeah.
When you get to companies like Nike.
So let me elaborate on this. People think everyone else thinks and behaves the way they do. Mm-hmm. So what's interesting is, you know, I don't see you accusing left-wing personalities of being grifters. I maybe periodically might say I believe someone's disingenuous or grifting. But for the most part, the politically homeless, the post-liberal, the freedom faction, whatever you want to call it, aren't going around saying this leftist personality is a grifter for money. But the leftist personalities say it all day, every day. They make shows and segments just targeting people on the opposite side of the political spectrum and say they're grifting for money.
I think it's a genuine failure to understand human motivation in most cases. I think if somebody believes something that they haven't really looked deeply enough into to have a fact-based opinion on. It's not so much because they're trying to cynically exploit people for gain that can happen, but I really think oftentimes it's because they settled on a particular perspective. They're afraid of looking into it more deeply. They do believe that they're right and that they're telling the truth, but they're not responsible in their pursuit of it. And so they end up promoting things they shouldn't be promoting and saying things that aren't true, and they do end up making money off of that. But it's not as if they're twirling their mustache going, I'm actually a right-winger and I'm making money as a left-wing pundit, or vice versa.
I've said something, and we saw, who was it who said this? I can't remember the gentleman's name. I'm forgetting. Clifton Duncan. Sorry,
Love
Clifton.
that guy. What's up?
I think it was Clifton. I could be wrong. But I said something to the effect of, the people who know what's going on, but they're unwilling to stand up and take responsibility and do anything about it, are part of the problem. Mm-hmm. But I believe it was Clifton. I could be wrong. If it wasn't, forgive me. Who said that he's starting to have more contempt for those people.
That was Clifton.
Than it was Clifton. Yeah.
Then which people?
Then the people who are just like mindless drones is a part of the woke.
So
cult
the
or
more
whatever.
contempt is for the ones who know.
The ones who know but won't do anything about it.
Yeah, well, that's my point. Like, you can't look. People living on minimum wage, people that are from, say, for example, migrant communities whose first language isn't English, who are petrified that they're going to get kicked out of the country if they step foot in the wrong direction. There are excuses and understandable reasons for why people may not be engaged with controversial political conversation. But there are people that have the luxury and the privilege to engage in that and either don't say the right thing or are actively saying and doing the wrong thing. And that's where I think the focus needs to be. Go back to that example, and you've got governments, and by definition that means people in power, funding armed Nazi brigades. Now, what that does immediately is undo the entire last 12 years. When I say we now, I'm talking about Muslims that put their neck on the line to go and challenge a lot of the extremism and terrorism that was coming from our communities, right? We put our neck on the line. Me and the networks that I work with, one of them was meant to come here with me today, but paperwork and whatever, Usman, my brother Usman Raja, we do a lot of, for example, intervention work in prisons with Muslims who are convicted of high-level terrorism through mentoring, through martial arts to attempt to rehabilitate them. Now, you put your neck on the line for that kind of work, and you say to these people that there is never an excuse, for example, to leave your democratic, rights-based, civil law-based country to go and join, for example, a jihadi brigade in ISIS because you're upset with Assad, that dictator. Right now, they're witnessing videos put out by British media encouraging British citizens to go to Ukraine and join that you just pulled up, right? It's undone all of the last 10 to 12 years. And the last point I'll make on this is that, back to that Oceania discussion, we are so unaware of how that's perceived outside of our media matrix. The work that's been undone is to the point now where you're going to have a 16-year-old Muslim based in France who's going to see those Nazis go and fight with other Nazis and say, you know what, I'm going to go and join the Chechens and fight these guys because they're dipping bullets in pig's lard. We've gone back to square one.
I was invited by YouTube to an anti-extremism event. The concern was that jihadi groups were using YouTube to recruit. They were showing videos. They were claiming it was injustice and you had to fight for justice. And they were talking about strategies to stop this. And it was particularly in the UK. Yeah. They said that these groups were targeting kids in the UK to convince them to go fight in these wars. I find it fascinating to bring up now that it's essentially okay when it comes to Ukraine.
Well, what you've just said there, right? So I'm going to pull something else up if the Wi-Fi works here. So if you can pull that tweet back up of mine and go down, it's a thread. So yeah, scroll down, and there will be a. Oh, you have to log in. No. Okay. So
we'll go.
So there's an Intercept article. I can talk you through it. There's an Intercept article. Basically, Facebook on that point, on radicalization. Facebook has decided that it's prohibited to promote the Azov Brigade because they're neo-Nazis, unless you're promoting them to fight Russia in Ukraine.
I saw that. That's amazing, isn't it?
Now, this is what I'm saying about again, I'm trying not to swear, right? I'm doing the work we've just done for 12 years on the Muslim side. Imagine you're a young 16-year-old French Muslim, right? And you see that.
Imagine you're Antifa.
You were there, man.
And you're screaming Nazi for 5 years.
Yeah.
And then you're like, finally, we're getting these people banned from Facebook.
Yeah.
And Facebook goes, whoa.
Yeah.
We're letting these guys back on.
I don't know if people even know your history.
Here it is. Do you see that? Facebook allows praise of neo-Nazi Ukrainian battalion if it fights Russian invasion.
Wow.
I mean, I can send it to you, Lydia, if you want to put it up. But
That's amazing. Was that on Twitter?
That's on Intercept.
Oh, the Intercept.
If you look up the Intercept, Facebook allows praise of neo-Nazi Ukrainian, you'll get it on your screen. I just want people to see this, Tim. Forgive me. It's important because it's the hypocrisy. It stinks. Look at that.
That's incredible.
And the problem is whether you're Antifa or a young Islamist, right? The problem now is how are you going to react to that?
Yeah. Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.